Fighting in Vietnam. So here we are looking at the Gulf of Tonkin resolution. With the Gulf of Tonkin resolution, this is the Johnson administration responding to the Gulf of Tonkin incident, which is why they mentioned attacks here. So they're referencing the Gulf of Tonkin, where the Vietnamese may or may not have fired at two U.S. Vessels. Turner joined the Maddox. I think that's the name of them. Anyway, whereas the United States is assisting the people of Southeast Asia, remember Vietnam is separated into North and South. Our ally is the South, and the president is going to take all necessary measures to repel arms attacks. Which armed attack? Well, this is in response to the Gulf of Tonkin, which I mentioned previously up here. Here we see an image of Lyndon Johnson in office up until 69 because he decides that the war is so out of hand, as well as the civil rights movement, that he is just going to deny the Democratic Party's nomination. So here we see escalation. Notice that the United States involvement in Vietnam goes back to the 50s. Here we see the casualties, the United States Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and the Coast Guard. And for the most part, U.S. casualties are really at a high point right here. And this is at the point where Johnson is in charge, the Gulf of Tonkin incident taking place here in 64. So what should you expect when you're fighting this war? Well, it's very simple. You need to find the enemy. Remember, the enemy could be everywhere and possibly anywhere. We need to find them. The Vietnamese are not fighting a conventional war. They are fighting a guerrilla war. So you're going to wake up, get on the helicopters. The helicopters are going to take you to the battlefield. You will get out of the helicopter onto the battlefield, and then you will simply look for the enemy over here. When you see anybody, you are going to ask them questions. You're going to ask them if they support the North, if they support the Viet Cong, and depending on their answer will determine what you do with them next. Maybe you take them into custody. Maybe you do absolutely nothing with them. Keep in mind, if the individual says no, they have no connection to the VC, you are going to have to let them go, at which particular point maybe that person is allied with the North and he'll possibly turn around and take a shot at you from behind, at which point you will have to turn around and then execute the individual because at that point they are a combatant. Which is what's being outlined here. We've already addressed this particular slide where the soldiers are asking the people whether or not they support the North. Here you see an image of U.S. soldiers walking in a wedge formation. I've already addressed this one in a prior screencast. Here you see the tunnel system. And maybe this soldier takes a shot at the U.S. soldiers, runs back into the tunnel, and then comes all the way out over here and takes a shot at them from this direction. So for the most part, U.S. soldiers are really going to be in a tough spot where they're going to have to constantly slow down. We haven't even talked about the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The Ho Chi Minh Trail, Vietnam is separated into North and South. Here we see Laos, here we see Cambodia, and the Vietnamese are going into Laos and Cambodia and then attacking U.S. troops. Because remember, the United States has no authority to be in Cambodia. Why? Because the Gulf of Tonkin incident is primarily about the United States presence in Vietnam. That would mean the president would have to go back to Congress, and Congress would have to give the authorization to allow the United States to get involved in Cambodia. However, there is somewhat of a gray area here. Why? Because the Gulf of Tonkin resolution simply says that we can take all necessary measures. So the all necessary measures, if the president is going to say, well, the North is going into Laos and Cambodia and then attacking us in the South, so that allows possibly a loophole. So it doesn't say that this is only applicable to Vietnam, which is why the Gulf of Tonkin resolution is so significant, because there definitely seems to be a gray area. The president can take any necessary measures, and he could simply, possibly even hide what he's doing from Congress and the American people. All he's got to do is say, we're doing this to stop future attacks, which is why Cambodia is going to be bombed. Phnom Penh, here we are looking at Cambodia. Phnom Penh, Cambodia is going to be bombed. Why? Because the Vietnamese are going into Cambodia. This may or may not have been a secret. Keep in mind, it's going to be dependent on the years. If you click these links, it will show you some of the tunnel rats, some of the tunnel systems that was significant to figure out, because again, those tunnels are going into other countries, and in this case, going into Cambodia. So here we see an image of Cambodia leaders. Here you see Long Nol. Here you see Pol Pot. They were fighting a civil war at this particular time, which is the same time when the United States was escalating its war in Vietnam, which lasted from 64 to 75. Also take note that the United States war in Vietnam ends in 75, which is when the civil war in Cambodia also comes to an end. When the United States flees Indochina, that means they're leaving not only Vietnam, but also Cambodia. That is when the Khmer Rouge will come to power and implement their genocide on the Cambodian people associated of siding with the United States during the Civil War. Here we see an image of the United States leaving from Operation Frequent Wind. This is at the U.S. Embassy in Vietnam, and they're trying to get on these helicopters because the U.S. is simply leaving the region. And again, Phnom Penh, the Khmer Rouge would argue that the Americans are going to bomb the capital, which is going to lead to numerous atrocities in Cambodia at the hands of the Khmer Rouge.